The Galactic Council's mistake, the massive crystal spires of the Galactic Council chamber stretched toward the artificial sky of Station Prime, their surfaces pulsing with the bioluminescent patterns of a dozen different species. Ambassadors of the Drakmori Empire stood at the center of the circular council floor, his four arms gesturing dramatically as he addressed the assembled representatives of the galaxy's most powerful civilizations. Honored council members, Zektar's voice resonated through the chamber's translation matrix. We gather today to discuss a most pressing matter. The human colonies in the Outer Rim have been expanding at an alarming rate, yet they contribute nothing to the Galactic Peace Initiative. High Chancellor Velthar, a towering crystalline being whose thoughts manifested as swirling colors within his translucent form, pulsed a deep orange of concern. The humans have been remarkably quiet since their first contact with our civilization. 3 years ago, perhaps too quiet. Exactly my point, Zektar continued, his reptilian features twisted into what humans might recognize as a sneer. They claim to be peaceful explorers, yet they refuse to pay the standard tribute required of all developing species. They show no respect for the established order. Councillor Thixer, whose insectoid appearance belied her species' reputation, for careful calculation, clicked her mandibles thoughtfully. The humans possess only primitive technology. Their ships are crude, their weapons basic. They pose no threat to the established powers. This assessment had been reached after careful observation of humanity's first diplomatic vessel, a simple exploration ship that had stumbled upon a council patrol 3 years earlier. The human crew had been polite, even eager to establish peaceful relations, but their technology appeared centuries behind the galactic standard. Their weakness is precisely why we must act now, Zektar pressed. If we allow one species to ignore the tribute system, others will follow. The humans must be made to understand their place in the galactic hierarchy. The debate continued for hours, but the outcome was never truly in doubt. The Galactic Council had maintained peace and order for over 1,000 years through a simple system. Powerful species ruled, weaker ones paid tribute, and everyone knew their place. The humans, with their small colonies and primitive technology, were clearly among the weaker species. Very well, High Chancellor Velthar announced, his form shifting to a decisive purple. We shall send a fleet to the human colony of New Terra. They will be given one standard cycle to agree to tribute terms or face the consequences of defying the Council. 3 days later, in the command center of New Terra Colony, Admiral Sarah Chen stood before a holographic display showing the approaching Council fleet. At 52 years old, she carried herself with the quiet confidence of someone who had seen more than her fair share of impossible situations. Her graying black hair was pulled back in a practical bun, and her uniform bore the scars of countless missions. How many ships? She asked Captain Elena Rodriguez, her tactical officer. 57 vessels, Elena replied, her fingers dancing across the holographic interface. Heavy cruisers, battleships, and what looks like a command dreadnought. They're not trying to hide their intentions. Any communication from them, standard diplomatic channels. They're demanding to speak with our leadership about tribute obligations. Sarah nodded slowly. She had expected this day would come eventually. The Galactic Council's reputation for enforcing their will on smaller species was well known throughout human space. What they didn't know was that humanity had been preparing for this moment since first contact. Send a message to Earth Command, Sarah ordered. Tell them the Council has made their move. Already done, Admiral. General Webb sends his regards and says the plan is in motion. General Marcus Webb, Sarah's old friend, and now Earth's Minister of Defense, had spent 3 years preparing for this scenario. While the Council believed humanity possessed only primitive technology, the truth was far more complex. Humans had simply chosen to show only what they wanted the galaxy to see. The Council fleet took up position in orbit around New Terra, their massive ships casting shadows across the colony's surface. The largest vessel, Ambassador Zektar's flagship, was a kilometer-long monstrosity bristling with weapons that could crack a planet's crust. Incoming transmission, Alina announced. Zektar's image appeared on the main screen, his 4 arms spread wide in what his species considered a gesture of authority. Humans of New Terra, I am Ambassador Zektar of the Drakmori Empire, speaking for the Galactic Council. Your species has been found in violation of established galactic law. This is Admiral Sarah Chen, Sarah replied calmly. What violation are you referring to? Do not play ignorant, human. Your colonies have expanded beyond the borders granted to developing species, and you have failed to pay the required tribute to the Council. These are serious offenses. We were never informed of any tribute requirements, Sarah said. Our first contact with your civilization was peaceful, and no such demands were made. Zektar's eyes narrowed. Ignorance is no excuse. You will immediately provide the Council with 50,000 tons of processed metals, 10,000 units of energy cells, and 20% of your population for labor assignments. This tribute will be paid annually from this point forward. Sarah felt a cold anger building in her chest. You're demanding our people as slaves. Labor assignments are a standard part of the tribute system. Your people will be well treated and provided with meaningful work throughout the galaxy. And if we refuse, then you will face the consequences of defying the Council. Your colonies will be pacified, your technology confiscated, and your people relocated to appropriate work assignments anyway. The choice is yours, but the outcome is the same. Sarah was quiet for a long moment, her face betraying nothing of her thoughts. Finally, she spoke. Ambassador, I need to consult with my government. How long do we have to consider your offer? 1 standard cycle, Zektar replied. 24 of your planet's rotations. Use this time wisely, human. The Council's patience has limits. The transmission ended, leaving Sarah alone with her staff. Alina was the first to speak. 24 hours to surrender half our population to slavery, she said bitterly. That's generous of them. They're not going to like our answer, Sarah replied. What is our answer? Sarah smiled for the first time since the Council fleet had arrived. We're going to show them what happens when you mistake kindness for weakness. Over. The next 24 hours, seemingly nothing happened. The Council fleet maintained its position, occasionally sending patrols to demonstrate their overwhelming firepower. The human colony appeared to be going about its normal business, though long-range sensors detected increased communication traffic between New Terra and other human settlements. What the Council couldn't detect was the subspace network that had been built over the past 3 years, connecting every human colony to Earth and to each other. General Webb had insisted on quantum communications that were undetectable by current galactic technology. Status report, Sarah requested as the deadline approached. All colonies report ready, Alina said. The fleet is in position, and Earth Command confirms green light for Operation Quiet Storm. Remind me again why we called it that. Because we're about to make a lot of noise after being quiet for 3 years. Sarah keyed the communication system. This is Admiral Chen to all stations. Operation Quiet Storm is now active. Show them what humanity really looks like. Across human space, what the Council had dismissed as primitive colonies began to reveal their true nature. Mining stations that appeared to be simple resource extraction operations suddenly sprouted advanced sensor arrays and communication dishes. Cargo ships that seemed to be carrying basic supplies transformed as their hull plating retracted to reveal sleek warships armed with weapons the galaxy had never seen. Most shocking of all, the space around New Terra began to shimmer as advanced. Stealth fields deactivated. Where there had been empty space moments before, a massive human fleet materialized. Not the small, primitive vessels the Council expected, but hundreds of sleek, advanced warships that had been hidden in plain sight. Impossible, Zektar whispered on his flagship's bridge. Where did they come from? Sir, his tactical officer stammered. Our sensors are detecting massive energy signatures from the human ships. These readings are off the scale. Get me the human admiral, Zektar ordered, his confidence shaken for the first time in decades. Sarah's image appeared on his screen, but she was no longer on the colony surface. She stood on the bridge of a massive warship, surrounded by holographic displays showing tactical information that made Zektar's blood run cold. Admiral Chen, he said, trying to regain his composure. This is an impressive display, but you are still vastly outnumbered. Are we? Sarah asked quietly. Computer, show Ambassador Zektar the current tactical situation. The display updated to show not just the local engagement, but the entire sector. Council fleets throughout human space were suddenly facing the same situation. Hundreds of hidden human vessels had appeared from nowhere, surrounding and outnumbering the Council forces at every location. This is impossible, Zektar repeated. Our intelligence reports indicated you possessed only primitive technology. Your intelligence reports were based on exactly what we wanted you to see, Sarah replied. We've been preparing for this moment since first contact. Did you really think we would make ourselves vulnerable to the first powerful alien civilization? We encountered the truth was that humanity had learned its lesson well from Earth's own history. When European colonizers had encountered isolated civilizations, technological superiority had often meant domination and exploitation. Humanity had no intention of suffering the same fate. The ships you saw 3 years ago were built specifically to appear primitive, Sarah continued. We needed to understand the galactic political situation before revealing our true capabilities. What we discovered was a system built on the exploitation of weaker species by stronger ones. The tribute system maintains galactic peace, Zektar protested. The tribute system maintains galactic slavery, Sarah corrected, and humanity will have no part in it. General Webb had spent years developing the strategy they now called Quiet Storm. While appearing to be a young, primitive species, humanity had actually been building one of the most advanced fleets in the galaxy. Human scientists, freed from the need to develop basic technologies that the galaxy had already perfected, had leaped ahead in specific areas: stealth, technology, energy, weapons, and most importantly, artificial intelligence. Your deadline has expired, Ambassador, Sarah said. Now I have an offer for you. You are hardly in a position to make demands, Zektar said, though his voice lacked its earlier confidence. I'm not making demands, Sarah replied. I'm offering you the chance to withdraw peacefully, leave human space, return to your council, and tell them that humanity is not interested in their tribute system. We're willing to trade, to cooperate, to work together for mutual benefit, but we will not be slaves. And if we refuse? Sarah's expression didn't change, but something in her eyes made Zektar step back from his screen. Then you'll discover why we're called the Quiet Ones, Ambassador. It's not because we're weak. It's because we prefer to solve problems without violence. But when violence becomes necessary, we're very, very good at it. The Council fleet found itself surrounded by human vessels that seemed to appear and disappear at will. Their weapon systems were being jammed by technology they couldn't understand, and their sensors were showing energy readings that defied explanation. "This is your last chance," Sarah said. "Leave now and tell your council that humanity is not interested in their protection racket. Force us to defend ourselves, and you'll learn why it's a mistake to threaten someone's home." Zektar looked at his tactical displays, at the impossible human fleet that surrounded his ships, and made the only decision that made sense. "All ships, prepare for withdrawal. We're returning to Council space." As the Council fleet retreated, Sarah allowed herself a small smile. The Quiet Ones had spoken at last, and the galaxy was about to learn that humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology or their weapons. It was their refusal to kneel. When diplomacy fails, humanity rises. The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened within hours of Ambassador Zektar's return to Station Prime. The massive chamber buzzed with agitated conversation as representatives from dozens of species tried to process what had just occurred. For the first time in over 1,000 years, a tribute demand had been not just refused, but met with overwhelming force. High Chancellor Velthar's crystalline form pulsed with deep red patterns of anger and confusion. "Explain to me again, Ambassador." "Zektar, how a primitive species managed to produce a fleet that outnumbered and outgunned our forces." Zektar stood at the center of the chamber, his forearms gesturing helplessly. "Honored Chancellor, I can only report what I witnessed. The humans have been deceiving us since first contact. Their true fleet is ... formidable. Formidable." Councillor Thixtra's mandibles clicked in disbelief. "You describe hundreds of advanced warships appearing from nowhere. This is beyond formidable. This is impossible." "Yet it happened," Zektar replied. "Their stealth technology is unlike anything we've encountered." Their ships appeared to materialize from empty space itself. War Marshal Corvin of the Hegemony of Worlds slammed his massive fist on his delegation's table. The 7-foot-tall warrior had led Council forces for 3 centuries, and his scarred face spoke of countless victories. "This is intolerable. No developing species should possess such capabilities. They must be stopped before they become a threat to galactic stability." "They are already a threat," Velthar replied, his form shifting to deep purple. "Reports are coming in from across the galaxy. Human colonies that we assumed were small and defenseless are revealing advanced defensive systems. Trade stations that appeared primitive are now showing energy signatures that rival our most advanced facilities." What the Council didn't know was that humanity's deception had been even more complete than they realized. For 3 years, human colonies had been built with 2 layers. A surface layer designed to look primitive and harmless, and a hidden layer containing humanity's true capabilities. It was a strategy born from Earth's own history of guerrilla warfare and asymmetric tactics. General Marcus Webb sat in the war room beneath Earth's capital, surrounded by holographic displays showing the current status of human forces throughout the galaxy. At 65, he was one of the few humans who remembered the dark period before first contact, when humanity had been preparing for the possibility of hostile alien contact. "Status report," he requested from his aide, Colonel Jennifer Park. All colonies report successful revelation of defensive capabilities, Colonel Park replied. The Council fleets have withdrawn from human space, but long-range sensors indicate they're massing for a coordinated response. Expected, Webb nodded. How many ships are they gathering? Current estimates suggest over 2,000 vessels. From multiple Council species, they're calling it a pacification fleet. Webb smiled grimly. They still don't understand what they're dealing with. Open a channel to Admiral Chen. Sarah's image appeared on the main screen. She was still aboard her flagship, the UES Determination, which had been disguised as a mining station for the past 2 years. General, I assume you've heard about the Council's response. 2,000 ships, Webb confirmed. They're planning to make an example of us. Are we ready for Phase 2? All systems are green. The question is whether we want to reveal everything at once or continue the gradual revelation approach. Sarah considered this. The original plan had been too slowly. Reveal humanity's capabilities over time, allowing the galaxy to adjust to the reality of human strength. But the Council's response suggested they weren't interested in adjustment. I think the time for subtlety has passed, Sarah decided. If they want to see what humanity can really do, let's show them. 3 days later, the largest military fleet in galactic history assembled at the edge of human space. 2,300 ships from 12 different species, representing the combined might of the Galactic Council. At its head was War Marshal Corvin's personal dreadnought, the Eternal Dominion, a ship so massive it had its own gravitational field. Humans of the colony worlds, Corvin's voice boomed across all frequencies. You have defied the established order of the galaxy. You have refused to acknowledge your place in the galactic hierarchy. This ends now. The response came not from Admiral Chen, but from an unexpected source. A new voice, calm and measured, spoke across the communication channels. This is President Elena Vasquez of the United Earth Federation. You are addressing not just colonial settlements, but sovereign human territory. I suggest you reconsider your aggressive posture. On the bridge of the Eternal Dominion, Corvin's tactical officer looked up from his displays with confusion. Sir, we're detecting massive energy signatures throughout this system. The readings are ... unprecedented. Show me, Corvin ordered. The main display updated to reveal the true extent of humanity's presence. What the Council had thought was a handful of primitive colonies was actually a fully integrated network of advanced installations, space stations that dwarfed anything the Council had built, orbital shipyards that were currently launching vessels larger than anything in the galactic fleet, and at the center of it all, a structure that defied classification. What is that? Corvin whispered. Admiral Chen's voice answered from the massive structure. That, War Marshal, is New Geneva Station, humanity's primary military command center. And from here, I'm going to show you why threatening our people was a mistake. The station was massive beyond comprehension, a city in space that housed over 2 million people. But it wasn't just a military installation. It was a symbol of what humanity could achieve when their survival was at stake. Impossible, Corvin breathed. Our intelligence reports indicated you possessed only primitive technology. Your intelligence reports were based on carefully crafted misinformation, Admiral Chen replied. We've been building this infrastructure for 3 years, hidden in plain sight. Every primitive colony you've observed was actually a sophisticated military installation. Every cargo ship you've seen was actually a warship in disguise. The truth was even more remarkable than the Council realized. Humanity had not just been preparing for this moment, They had been revolutionizing warfare itself. Human scientists had developed quantum communication systems that made their fleets operate as a single, coordinated entity. They had created artificial intelligence systems that could calculate battle strategies in real time. Most importantly, they had developed weapons that the galaxy had never seen before. "You have one opportunity to withdraw peacefully," President Vasquez's voice cut through the tension. "Leave human space, return to your council, and inform them that humanity is willing to negotiate as equals, not as subjects." "We do not negotiate with rebellious species," Corvin replied. "All ships prepare for coordinated assault. We will reduce their installations to debris." "I was hoping you'd say that," Admiral Chen said quietly. What happened next would be remembered as the moment the galaxy's balance of power shifted forever. The Council fleet, confident in their numerical superiority, began their attack. Energy beams and missile salvos filled the space around New Geneva Station, but none of them reached their target. Instead, they struck what appeared to be empty space and simply disappeared. The entire station was surrounded by a defensive field that absorbed and redirected energy attacks back at their sources. Council ships found themselves being struck by their own weapons. "What kind of technology is this?" Corvin demanded. "Quantum field manipulation," Admiral Chen explained almost conversationally. "We've learned to bend space itself. Your energy weapons are being redirected through folded space back to their points of origin." The Council fleet tried to adjust their tactics, but humanity's response was overwhelming. Ships that had been hidden throughout the system suddenly appeared, not through the gradual revelation of stealth fields, but through actual translocation. They simply materialized at optimal attack positions around the Council fleet. "All ships." "This is Admiral Chen. Implement Directive 7. Across human space." The true extent of humanity's preparation became clear. The 2,000 ships of the Council fleet suddenly found themselves facing over 5,000 human vessels. But these weren't just more ships. They were ships built with technology that seemed to violate the known laws of physics. Human vessels moved without visible propulsion, accelerating at rates that should have killed their crews. Their weapons fired projectiles that seemed to exist in multiple locations simultaneously. Their defensive systems absorbed attacks that should have destroyed them. "This is impossible," Corvin repeated, his massive frame shaking with rage and fear. "No species develops this level of technology in 3 years." "We didn't develop it in 3 years," Admiral Chen replied. "We've been developing it for centuries. We just kept it hidden until we needed it." The battle, if it could be called that, lasted less than an hour. The Council fleet, despite its size and presumed technological superiority, was disabled, not destroyed, Admiral Chen noted, but disabled. Human forces used non-lethal weapons wherever possible, a restraint that shocked the galactic observers. "This is war, Marshal Corvin," the defeated commander finally transmitted. "I request terms of surrender." "Terms of surrender?" Admiral Chen sounded genuinely surprised. "Marshal, we're not at war. We're having a disagreement about tribute. Systems, here are humanity's terms. Leave our space, return to your council, and tell them that Earth is interested in joining the galactic community as an equal partner, not a subject species. And if the Council refuses, then the Council will discover that humanity's patience has limits. We've shown restraint today, Marshal. Don't mistake that for weakness." In the aftermath of what historians would later call the Quiet Storm incident, the galaxy struggled to understand what had happened. A species that had been considered primitive and harmless had revealed itself to be one of the most advanced civilizations in known space. But the real shock came in the weeks that followed. Rather than using their demonstrated superiority to conquer territory or demand tribute, humanity did something unprecedented. They offered to share their technology. The council system is based on the assumption that advanced species must dominate primitive ones. President Vasquez explained in her address to the galactic community, "Humanity rejects that assumption. We believe that cooperation creates more prosperity than domination." The offer was simple. Any species that abandoned the tribute system and committed to peaceful cooperation would be welcome to trade with humanity for advanced technology. Any species that continued to support the exploitation of weaker civilizations would find themselves isolated from the most advanced technological development in the galaxy. The Council's response was predictable. High Chancellor Velthar declared humanity to be a threat to galactic stability and called for a unified response to contain the human expansion. But the declaration fell on deaf ears. Too many species had been paying tribute to the Council for too long, and the prospect of freedom was too attractive to ignore. Within 6 months, the tribute system that had maintained galactic order for 1,000 years elapsed. Species after species declared independence from Council authority and sought trade agreements with humanity. The galaxy's political structure, built on the exploitation of the weak by the strong, crumbled in the face of an alternative that offered cooperation instead of domination. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the observation deck of New Geneva Station, watching as the latest group of refugee ships from former Council territory docked at the station's ports. These were the representatives of species that had been enslaved by the tribute system, finally free to determine their own destiny. "Any regrets?" General Webb asked, joining her at the viewport, "about revealing our hand so dramatically?" "No. About waiting 3 years to do it. Maybe we needed those 3 years to understand what we were dealing with. If we'd revealed our capabilities immediately, the Council might have united against us before we were ready." Sarah nodded. "And now the galaxy knows that there's an alternative to the old system. Some species will choose cooperation over domination. Others will cling to the old ways, but the choice is theirs to make." As they watched a massive cargo ship from the Thixtra Collective docked at the station, the insectoid species had been among the first to abandon the Council system, and their scientific knowledge was proving invaluable in humanity's ongoing research projects. "The quiet ones," Sarah mused. "That's what they're calling us now, because we prefer diplomacy to warfare, because we were quiet until we had something worth saying." The galaxy had expected humanity to be another primitive species to be dominated and exploited. Instead, they had discovered that sometimes the most dangerous opponents are the ones who let you underestimate them. Humanity hadn't just survived first contact with a hostile galactic civilization. They had transformed that civilization into something better. The quiet ones had spoken, and the galaxy would never be the same.
First contact and humiliation. The day Earth's isolation ended started like any other. Dr. Elena Reeves sipped her morning coffee, reviewing data from the Deep Space Monitoring Array she oversaw. The radio telescope network, spanning multiple continents, was humanity's ears to the cosmos. For decades, it had listened patiently for any sign of extraterrestrial intelligence. Today, it would finally hear something. A sharp beep from her console jolted Elena fully awake. Her eyes widened as she saw the incoming signal strength. This was no random cosmic noise or glitch in the system. The pattern was clear, structured, undeniably artificial. "Holy shit," she whispered, her coffee forgotten. "We're not alone." Within hours, The news spread like wildfire. Governments scrambled, the UN convened emergency sessions, and the world held its collective breath. The signal, as it turned out, was just the beginning. 3 days later, a massive ship appeared in orbit, dwarfing the International Space Station. The aliens called themselves the Zarkarians. They were bipedal, vaguely reptilian in appearance, with iridescent scales and eyes that seemed to glow with an inner light. Their technology was centuries, perhaps millennia, beyond Earth's best efforts. At first, there was celebration. Humanity had dreamed of this moment for generations, but as the initial meetings between human leaders and Zarkarian representatives unfolded, the mood began to shift. Admiral Ktarlox, the Zarkarian commander, stood before the UN General Assembly, his towering form making even the tallest humans look like children. His voice, translated through advanced devices, dripped with barely concealed disdain. "We have observed your species for some time," Ktarlox announced. "Your potential is limited, but we are not without mercy. We offer you a place in our galactic community, under our guidance and protection." UN Secretary General Amara Okafor, a usually unflappable Nigerian diplomat, struggled to maintain her composure. "We appreciate your offer, Admiral, but surely you recognize that humanity has much to contribute. Our art, our music, our scientific achievements." Ktarlox's laughter cut her off, a harsh, grating sound that sent chills through the assembly. "Scientific achievements. Your most advanced computers are toys compared to the devices our children use for amusement. Your vaunted space program has barely scratched the surface of your own solar system." He gestured dismissively at the room. "As for your art and music, we find them simplistic and crude. You are children playing at civilization. Accept our offer or remain isolated. The galaxy has little use for primitives who cannot even harness the energy of their own star." The assembly erupted in angry shouts and protests, but Ktarlox simply turned and left, his point made. In the days that followed, the Zarkarians' attitude only worsened. They freely shared glimpses of their advanced technology, not as a gesture of goodwill, but seemingly to rub humanity's nose in its own inadequacy. Dr. Elena Reeves found herself summoned to a Zarkarian research vessel, along with other top human scientists. She had hoped for an exchange of knowledge, a chance to learn and grow. Instead, she felt like a kindergartner being lectured by university professors. Zarkarian scientist Keltera sneered as she examined Earth's most advanced quantum computer. "Quaint," she said, the translation dripping with condescension. "We solved the problems you were struggling with millennia ago. Your entire approach is fundamentally flawed." Elena bristled. "Our scientists have made incredible strides in just the past century, given time." "Time," Keltera interrupted. "At your rate of progress, you'll reach our current level of technology in, perhaps 50,000 years, if you don't destroy yourselves first with your primitive weapons and environmental mismanagement." The humiliation continued across every field. Zarkarian engineers laughed at human spacecraft. Their doctors called Earth's medical technology barbaric. Their artists dismissed human creative works as the scribblings of infants. World leaders struggled to maintain a united front, but cracks were beginning to show. Some nations wanted to embrace Zarkarian oversight, hoping to benefit from their advanced technology. Others advocated for isolationism, arguing that accepting alien help would mean the end of human independence. Tensions came to a head 3 months after first contact. The Zarkarians announced they would be establishing a permanent base on Earth to oversee human development. The proposed location, right in the heart of Yellowstone National Park. President Amelia Chen of the United States stood her ground in a tense meeting with Admiral Ktarlox. "Yellowstone is a protected natural wonder," she argued. "Surely there are other suitable locations for your base." Ktarlox's eyes narrowed. "You misunderstand, human. We are not asking permission. We are informing you of our decision. Your protected areas mean nothing to us. We will build where we please." Chen's fists clenched at her sides. And if we refuse? The alien commander leaned in close, his voice a low hiss. Then we will simply take what we want. Your pitiful weapons are no threat to us. Do not test our patience. As news of the confrontation spread, protests erupted worldwide. Humanity might be technologically outmatched, but its spirit remained unbroken. In cities across the globe, people took to the streets, demanding that Earth stand up to the alien bullies. But what could be done against a species so far advanced? The Zarkarians had made it clear that human military might was laughably inadequate. A single alien ship could likely defeat Earth's combined armed forces without breaking a sweat. In a secure bunker deep beneath the Pentagon, a group of military and scientific leaders gathered to assess the situation. The mood was grim. General Sandra Martinez, Joint Chiefs of Staff, summed up the military outlook. We've run countless simulations. Even if we threw everything we have at them, we wouldn't scratch their paint job. Conventional warfare is off the table. NASA Administrator Dr. James Chen shook his head. Our space assets are equally useless. They could swat our satellites out of the sky like flies. Alina Reeves, invited to provide scientific insight, listened to the increasingly desperate discussion. An idea began to form in her mind, a desperate gamble born of humanity's long history of overcoming seemingly insurmountable odds. What if, she said, her voice cutting through the defeatist chatter, we fight them on a battlefield they don't expect? All eyes turned to her. Alina took a deep breath and continued. The Zarkarians have made one thing abundantly clear. They think we're stupid, primitive, incapable of surprising them. She stood, pacing as she warmed to her theme. But that's where they're wrong. Human history is full of scientific and technological leaps that seemed impossible until someone did them. The airplane, splitting the atom, landing on the moon. What are you suggesting, Dr. Reeves? President Chen asked, leaning forward. Alina's eyes gleamed with determination. I'm suggesting we do what humans do best. We innovate. We think outside the box. The Zarkarians are so convinced of their superiority, they're not even considering us a threat. That's our advantage. She paused, looking around the room. We need a Manhattan Project for the 21st century, a secret international effort to develop technology that can level the playing field, something they won't see coming. General Martinez frowned. Like what? We're centuries behind them. Maybe in some areas, Alina conceded, but they've shown us glimpses of what's possible. We don't need to match them across the board. We just need one game-changing breakthrough. She tapped her tablet, bringing up schematics on the room's main screen. I've been analyzing the data we've gathered on their ships. There might be a way to create a cloaking technology they can't detect. Imagine a stealth ship that could slip past their defenses, gather intelligence, maybe even neutralize key systems. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. It was a long shot, but it was also the first glimmer of hope that had since the Zarkarians arrived. President Chen stood, her face set with resolve. Dr. Reeves, you'll head up this project. You'll have whatever resources you need. General Martinez, coordinate with our allies. This needs to be a global effort, but maintained in absolute secrecy. She looked around the room, her gaze steel. The Zarkarians think they've got us figured out. They see us as children, playing at science and civilization. It's time we showed them just how dangerous underestimating humanity can be. As the meeting adjourned, Alina felt the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. The task ahead was monumental, the odds stacked against them. But as she looked at the determined faces around her, she felt a surge of pride and hope. Humanity had faced extinction-level threats before, from ice ages to plagues to world wars. Each time, they had not only survived but emerged stronger. This time would be no different. The Zarkarians had made a critical error. They had awakened humanity's greatest weapon, its indomitable will to survive and thrive against all odds. As Alina left the bunker, her mind already racing with ideas and calculations, She allowed herself a small, fierce smile. The aliens thought they knew humanity's limits. They were about to learn just how wrong they were. The Secret Project. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, in a sprawling complex that officially didn't exist, Project Prometheus was taking shape. Dr. Elena Reeves stood in the center of the main laboratory, surrounded by a sea of holographic displays, each one showing a different aspect of their impossibly ambitious undertaking. Dr. Reeves, a voice called from across the room. We've got the latest simulation results. Elena turned to see Dr. Akira Tanaka, a brilliant Japanese physicist, approaching with a tablet in hand. His usually calm demeanor was tinged with excitement. "Show me," Elena said, taking the tablet. The screen displayed a complex graph, a tangle of lines that would have been meaningless to most. But to Elena, it was a glimpse of hope. "We're getting closer," Akira said, his voice low. "The quantum fluctuation patterns are starting to align with our theoretical models. If we can stabilize the field." Elena nodded, her mind racing. "We might just pull this off." It had been 6 months since the meeting in the Pentagon bunker. 6 months of round-the-clock work, of frustration and setbacks, of small victories that kept them going. The goal was nothing less than to create a cloaking device that could hide a ship not just from sight, but from every form of detection the Zarkarians might possess. The task would have been daunting even if they'd been building on existing human technology. But they were attempting to leapfrog centuries of development, using the glimpses of advanced science the Zarkarians had inadvertently provided as a springboard for their own innovations. Elena looked around the lab, pride swelling in her chest. The team they'd assembled was a dream come true. The best and brightest from every corner of the globe. Physicists, engineers, mathematicians, and more, all working in perfect harmony towards a common goal. Dr. Fadila Hassan, an Egyptian quantum engineer, was deep in discussion with Dr. Chen Wei, a Chinese materials scientist. Their collaborative work on exotic matter manipulation was pushing the boundaries of what was thought possible. Across the room, Dr. Olga Petrova, a Russian computer scientist, was fine-tuning the AI systems that would control the cloaking field. Her fingers flew across the keyboard, her eyes never leaving the streams of code on her screens. And there, hunched over a workbench, was Jack O'Neill, an Irish mechanic with an almost supernatural ability to turn theoretical designs into working prototypes. His hands were covered in grease, but his touch was as delicate as a surgeon's as he adjusted a piece of equipment no larger than a matchbox. "How's it coming, Jack?" Elena asked, approaching his workbench. Jack looked up, a lopsided grin on his face. "Well, Doc, if you'd asked me a year ago to build a quantum field generator using tech that shouldn't exist for another century, I'd have told you to lay off the whiskey." He held up the tiny device. "But here we are. It's not pretty, and it's not stable yet, but it works. Sort of." Elena couldn't help but smile. Jack's irreverent humor had been a much-needed source of levity in the high-pressure environment of the lab. "Sort of is better than not at all," she said. "Keep at it. We're making progress." As she turned away, her smile faded. Progress, yes, but was it enough? Outside the protected bubble of Project Prometheus, the world was changing, and not for the better. The Zarkarians had made good on their threat, establishing their base in Yellowstone, despite worldwide protests. The alien structure now loomed over the iconic geysers and hot springs, a constant reminder of humanity's powerlessness. More concerning were the reports of increasing Zarkarian interference in human affairs. They were advising governments on everything from economic policy to educational curricula, always with the patronizing air of adults guiding wayward children. Some nations had fully embraced the alien oversight, seeing it as a fast track to advanced technology and galactic integration. Others resisted, clinging fiercely to human independence. The resulting global tensions were pushing the world to the brink of conflict. And through it all, the Zarkarians watched with detached amusement, as if observing a particularly entertaining ant farm. Alina's tablet beeped, pulling her from her gloomy thoughts. A message from General Martinez. Urgent update. Secure video conference in 10 minutes. Suppressing a sigh, Alina made her way to the communication center. These updates had become more frequent lately and rarely brought good news. The general's face appeared on the screen, her expression grim. Dr. Reeves, we've got a situation. Our intelligence suggests the Zarkarians are planning to expand their presence on Earth, significantly. Alina felt her heart sink. How significantly? Alina felt her heart sink. How significantly? They're talking about establishing bases on every continent, and they're not asking this time. They're telling us it's happening, whether we like it or not. Alina's mind raced. How long do we have? They're moving fast. Months, maybe weeks. Dr. Reeves, Alina, we need a breakthrough. Soon, or we might not have a planet left to save. The weight of the general's words hung heavy in the air long after the call ended. Alina leaned against the wall, closing her eyes for a moment. The fate of humanity rested on their shoulders, and time was running out. Taking a deep breath, she straightened up and marched back into the main lab. Everyone, gather round, she called out. We need to talk. As the team assembled, Alina looked at each face in turn. Tired, yes, but still burning with determination. These were the finest minds Earth had to offer, and they had accomplished the impossible before. I won't sugarcoat this, Alina began. Our timeline just got a lot shorter. The Zarkarians are planning to expand their presence on Earth, and if we don't have something to show soon, it might be too late. A murmur of concern rippled through the group, but Alina held up her hand. I know we're close. I know we've all been pushing ourselves to the limit. But now we need to push harder. Whatever you thought was impossible yesterday, make it possible today. Whatever crazy idea you've been holding back because it seemed too risky, now's the time to try it. She paused, making eye contact with each team member. I believe in every single one of you. More importantly, I believe in us as a team. Humanity has always thrived when our backs are against the wall. Well, our backs are against the wall now. So let's show the universe what humans can do when everything is on the line. The lab erupted into a flurry of activity. Ideas that had been discarded as too outlandish were revisited. New collaborations formed on the spot, specialists from different fields combining their expertise in ways they hadn't considered before. Days blurred into nights as the team worked around the clock. Meals were eaten at workstations, and sleep was caught in short naps on cots scattered around the lab. Breakthroughs came in fits and starts. Dr. Hassan and Dr. Wei's work on exotic matter manipulation led to a stable method of bending light around an object. Dr. Petrova's AI systems learned to predict and compensate for quantum fluctuations in real time. And Jack O'Neill, fueled by an endless supply of coffee and sheer Irish stubbornness, managed to miniaturize the field generator to the point where it could feasibly be installed on a ship. But it was Dr. Tanaka who provided the final piece of the puzzle. In a moment of inspiration that he would later struggle to explain, he realized how to synchronize the various elements of the cloaking system in a way that made the whole far greater than the sum of its parts. Alina. Akira's shout cut through the constant hum of the lab. I think we've done it. All activity in the lab ceased as Alina rushed to Akira's station. The simulation on his screen showed a test object, roughly the size of a small spacecraft, completely vanishing from every form of detection they could model. Run it again, Alina said, hardly daring to believe. Akira complied, and again the result was the same. Perfect invisibility. A cheer went up from the team, the first real celebration they'd allowed themselves in months. Alina felt tears pricking at her eyes as she looked around at the jubilant faces of her colleagues. We did it, she whispered, then louder. We actually did it. The celebration was short-lived, however. There was still much to be done. The technology needed to be tested in the real world, installed on an actual ship, and all of it had to be done in absolute secrecy. Over the next few weeks, the prototype cloaking device was painstakingly installed on a specially designed test vessel. The ship itself was a marvel of human engineering, incorporating every advanced concept and material they had developed over the course of the project. Finally, the day of the first full-scale test arrived. In a remote area of the Mojave Desert, far from prying eyes, both human and alien, the test ship sat on a makeshift launch pad. Elena stood in the control center, surrounded by her team and a handful of military observers. Her finger hovered over the button that would activate the cloaking device. "This is it," she said, her voice steady despite the butterflies in her stomach. "Commencing cloaking sequence in 3, 2, 1. She pressed the button. For a heart-stopping moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, slowly, impossibly, the ship began to fade from view. Within seconds, it had vanished completely, leaving behind only an empty launch pad. The control center erupted in cheers and applause. Tears flowed freely as months of stress and doubt gave way to triumph. But Elena's eyes remained fixed on the sensor readings. Not only was the ship invisible to the naked eye, but it was also undetectable by radar, thermal imaging, and every other method they could think of. They had done it. They had created a true invisibility cloak, a technology that could put humanity on equal footing with the Zarkarians. As the celebration continued around her, Elena felt a mix of elation and trepidation. They had their game-changing technology. But how they used it, how they revealed it to the world and to the Zarkarians, would determine the fate of humanity. The real challenge, she realized, was just beginning. Alien infiltration. In the gleaming spire of the Zarkarian Command Center, nestled incongruously among the natural wonders of Yellowstone, Admiral Xarlox paced restlessly. His scaled skin shimmered in the artificial light, a physical manifestation of his agitation. "Something is not right," he growled, addressing his second-in-command, Sub-Admiral Zelterra. "The humans are too quiet." Zelterra tilted her head, her luminous eyes blinking in confusion. "Quiet, Admiral. They seem as noisy and chaotic as ever to me." Xarlox waved a clawed hand dismissively. "On the surface, yes, but beneath, there's a current of something. Determination. Hope, even." He spat the last word, as if it left a bad taste in his mouth. "They're up to something." "Surely not," Zelterra scoffed. "What could they possibly do? Their technology is centuries behind ours. Their governments are fractured, barely able to agree on anything." "Do not underestimate them," Xarlox snapped. "Humans have a distressing tendency to exceed expectations when cornered." He turned to face his subordinate, eyes narrowing. "I want you to increase surveillance, infiltrate their governments, their militaries, their scientific institutions, find out what they're hiding." Zelterra bowed low. "It will be done, Admiral." As Zelterra left to carry out her orders, Xarlox turned to gaze out over the stunning vista of Yellowstone. The beauty of the landscape was lost on him, his mind focused solely on the puzzle of humanity's unexpected resilience. "What are you up to, little mammals?" he murmured to himself. "And how will I crush it?" Thousands of miles away, in Washington, D.C., President Amelia Chen sat in the Oval Office, her face a mask of calm belying the storm of emotions within. Across from her sat the Zarkarian ambassador, a towering figure whose very presence seemed to diminish the historical grandeur of the room. "I trust you understand the necessity of our expansion, Madam President," the ambassador was saying, his tone condescending. "Your world is in desperate need of guidance. We're simply ensuring we can provide that guidance more efficiently." Chen's fingers tightened imperceptibly on the arms of her chair. "Ambassador, while we appreciate the Zarkarians' interest in Earth's development, I must stress again that this level of intervention goes beyond what we can accept." "Sovereignty." "Sovereignty," the ambassador interrupted with a laugh. "My dear Madam President, you speak of concepts you barely understand. Your nations, your borders, these are childish constructs. The galaxy operates on a scale you can't yet comprehend. Chen bit back a retort, forcing herself to maintain a diplomatic facade. Nevertheless, Ambassador, I must insist that any further Zarkarian installations on Earth be subject to negotiation and mutual agreement. The ambassador's eyes narrowed, all pretense of friendliness evaporating. You misunderstand, human. We are not negotiating. We are informing you of what will happen. Your agreement is irrelevant. As the ambassador swept out of the office, Shan allowed herself a moment of despair. Then, squaring her shoulders, she reached for a secure phone. "Get me Project Prometheus," she ordered. "We need to accelerate the timeline." In the weeks that followed, a shadow war unfolded across the globe. Zarkarian agents, using advanced holographic technology to pass as human, infiltrated key positions in governments and institutions worldwide. They were searching for any hint of resistance, any sign of technological advancement that might threaten their dominance. But humanity, it turned out, had some tricks of its own. In London, a nondescript office worker, actually an MI6 agent, noticed his new colleague's oddly perfect behavior. A hunch and some discreet testing revealed the truth: a Zarkarian spy in their midst. In Beijing, a young computer programmer spotted an anomaly in the city's surveillance system, a blind spot that shouldn't exist. Her discovery led to the exposure of a Zarkarian listening post hidden in the heart of the city. And in Moscow, a grizzled FSB veteran's instincts told him something was off about the new foreign advisor to the Defense Ministry. His paranoia paid off when the advisor was caught trying to access classified military plans. Each small victory was a morale boost for the human resistance, but for every Zarkarian agent exposed, more slipped through the cracks. The aliens' technology gave them a significant advantage, and their arrogance made them bold. Deep in the Rocky Mountain complex, Alina Reeves and her team worked feverishly to prepare their stealth ship for its first real mission. The prototype, dubbed Shadowhawk, was a sleek, obsidian craft that looked like it had been born from the darkness of space itself. "Final systems check complete," Akira reported, his fingers dancing over a holographic console. "All green across the board." Elena nodded, allowing herself a small smile. "Excellent. Now we just need our pilot." As if on cue, the lab's secure elevator hummed to life. All eyes turned as the doors slid open, revealing a tall, athletic woman with close-cropped hair and piercing blue eyes. "Major Sarah Hawkins, reporting for duty," she announced, striding into the lab with confident steps. Elena stepped forward to greet her. "Major, welcome to Project Prometheus. I hope they briefed you on the unique nature of this assignment." Sarah's lips quirked in a half-smile. "They told me I'd be flying an invisible spaceship to spy on aliens. Honestly, ma'am, I thought they were pulling my leg until I saw this place." "Well, they weren't exaggerating," Elena said, gesturing towards the Shadowhawk. "That's your ride. Think you can handle it?" Sarah's eyes widened as she took in the sleek craft. "Oh, I can handle it all right. Question is, can it handle me?" Over the next few days, Sarah underwent an intensive crash course in operating the Shadowhawk. The ship's controls were unlike anything she'd ever encountered, a blend of holographic interfaces and neural links that seemed more science fiction than reality. But Sarah proved to be a natural. Her test flights in the simulator showed a level of adaptability and skill that impressed even the jaded scientists of Project Prometheus. "She's ready," Elena told General Martinez during their nightly briefing. "And so is the ship. We can launch the first mission whenever you give the word." Martinez's face was grim on the video screen. "It needs to be soon. We've had more reports of Zarkarian infiltration. They're getting bolder, pushing harder. If we don't act now, we might lose our window of opportunity." Elena nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. "Understood. We'll prepare for launch immediately." The day of the mission dawned clear and bright, a stark contrast to the tension that filled the underground complex. Sarah Hawkins sat in the Shadowhawk's cockpit, running through pre-flight checks with mechanical precision. In the control room, Elena and her team monitored every system, every readout. This was the moment of truth, the culmination of months of work and sacrifice. Shadowhawk, this is Control. Elena's voice came through Sarah's headset. You are cleared for launch. Good luck, and Godspeed. Sarah took a deep breath, her hand hovering over the launch control. Roger that, Control. Let's show these aliens what humans can do. With a subtle hum that belied its power, the Shadowhawk lifted off. As it ascended, the cloaking device engaged. To any observer, human or Zarkarian, it would have seemed as if the ship simply ceased to exist. Sarah guided the invisible craft higher and higher, breaking through the atmosphere and into the inky blackness of space. Her target, the massive Zarkarian mothership in high Earth orbit. As the Shadowhawk approached the alien vessel, Sarah's heart pounded in her chest. The mothership loomed before her, a city-sized construct of gleaming metal and pulsing energy fields. If their cloaking technology failed now, she would be defenseless against the Zarkarians' superior weapons. But the Shadowhawk remained undetected. Sarah maneuvered the ship closer, using the advanced sensors to scan every inch of the alien craft. Control, this is Shadowhawk, she whispered, though there was no need for stealth in the vacuum of space. I'm sending you the data now. You're not going to believe what I'm seeing. In the control room, the team watched in awe as the scans came through. The Zarkarian ship's capabilities were beyond anything they had imagined. But more importantly, they were now visible, understandable. This is it, Elena breathed. This is how we level the playing field. But as the Shadowhawk completed its mission and began its return journey, alarms suddenly blared in the cockpit. Control, I've got a problem. Sarah's voice crackled over the comm. The cloaking device is fluctuating. I think they might have detected me. Elena felt her blood run cold. Get out of there. Now. Sarah didn't need to be told twice. She pushed the Shadowhawk to its limits, hurtling back towards Earth at breakneck speed. Behind her, the Zarkarian mothership had come to life, energy weapons charging. They're locking onto me, Sarah reported, her voice tight with tension. I don't think I can outrun them. In the control room, Elena made a split-second decision. Divert all power to the engines, she ordered. Drop the cloak if you have to. Just get back alive. The next few minutes were the longest of Elena's life. The control room was silent save for the beeping of monitors and Sarah's terse status updates. Then, finally, I'm through the atmosphere. Sarah's relieved voice came through. I think I lost them in the re-entry. A cheer went up in the control room. They had done it. They had successfully spied on the Zarkarians, gathered crucial intelligence, and made it back in one piece. But as the celebration died down, the reality of their situation sank in. They had rattled the hornet's nest. The Zarkarians now knew that humans had technology capable of evading their detection. The element of surprise was gone. As Elena prepared to brief the President and Joint Chiefs on the mission's outcome, she couldn't shake a feeling of foreboding. They had won a battle, but the war was far from over. And the Zarkarians, she knew, would not take this challenge to their supremacy lightly. The real test was yet to come. The unveiling. Admiral Karlock stood before the massive view screen in the Zarkarian mothership's command center, his claws clenched in barely contained rage. The screen displayed a replay of the incident from a few days ago. A mysterious energy signature appearing out of nowhere near their ship, then vanishing just as quickly. Impossible, he snarled, turning to his assembled officers. The humans don't have this kind of technology. They can't. Sub-Admiral Zelterra stepped forward cautiously. The evidence suggests otherwise. Admiral, our analysis confirms it was not a natural phenomenon. Something, or someone, was there, observing us. Zarlock's eyes narrowed dangerously. Find them, he hissed. I want whoever is responsible for this brought before me. And prepare the fleet. If the humans want to play games, we'll show them the consequences of defying the Zarkarian Empire. As the command center burst into frantic activity, Karlox turned back to the view screen, his face a mask of cold determination. The humans had surprised him, but he would make sure it was for the last time. Meanwhile, in Washington, D.C., President Amelia Chen sat at the head of a long table in a secure underground bunker. Around her were the Joint Chiefs of Staff, key cabinet members, and on a large screen, Dr. Elena Reeves and her team from Project Prometheus. "So let me get this straight," General Martinez said, leaning forward. "Not only do we have a working stealth ship, but we've successfully gathered intel on the Zarkarian mothership." Elena nodded on the screen. "Yes, General. Major Hawkins' mission was a complete success, despite a close call at the end. We now have detailed scans of their technology, including their weapons and defensive systems." A murmur of excitement ran through the room. For the first time since the Zarkarians arrived, there was a glimmer of hope. President Chen raised a hand for silence. "This is indeed a significant achievement, but it also puts us in a precarious position. The Zarkarians know we have this technology now. They'll be on high alert." "Madam President," Elena interjected, "I believe we need to act quickly. Our analysis of the Zarkarian tech shows some surprising vulnerabilities. If we can replicate our stealth technology on a larger scale, we might have a chance to neutralize their threat." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. It was Secretary of Defense William Harper who finally spoke up. "Are you suggesting we launch a preemptive strike, Dr. Reeves?" Elena took a deep breath. "I'm suggesting we show them we're not as helpless as they think. We don't need to strike first, but we need to be ready to defend ourselves. And more importantly, we need to show the world and the Zarkarians that humanity is not to be trifled with." President Chen nodded slowly, her mind racing with the possibilities and risks. "How quickly can we implement this technology on a larger scale?" "With the resources we have now, maybe a month," Elena replied. "But if we go public with this, pool global resources, we might be able to do it in half that time." The president stood, her decision made. "Then that's what we'll do. It's time to bring the world together. Dr. Reeves, prepare your team for a global announcement. We're taking this public." The next few days were a whirlwind of activity. As news of the human stealth technology spread, the world's reaction was a mix of shock, jubilation, and renewed determination. Countries that had been at odds suddenly found common ground in the face of the alien threat. Resources poured into Project Prometheus from every corner of the globe. Scientists and engineers worked around the clock, adapting the stealth technology for everything from small fighter craft to massive orbital platforms. But the Zarkarians were not idle. Their ships began aggressive patrols of Earth's orbit, scanning constantly for any sign of the elusive human technology. On the ground, their operatives stepped up their efforts to infiltrate and sabotage human defenses. It was a race against time, with the fate of humanity hanging in the balance. 2 weeks after the announcement, Elena stood on a platform in front of the United Nations headquarters in New York. Behind her, shrouded in secrecy and security, was the fruit of their labors. The first full-size stealth warship, christened the HS Defiant. As cameras rolled and the world watched with bated breath, Elena began her address. "People of Earth, for too long we have lived under the shadow of alien dominance. The Zarkarians came to our world uninvited, treating us like children, dismissing our achievements, our culture, our very humanity." She paused, her eyes sweeping over the crowd. "But today we show them, and ourselves, what humanity is truly capable of. Today we unveil not just a ship, but a symbol of our unity, our ingenuity, and our indomitable spirit." With a nod to her team, Elena stepped back. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, slowly, majestically, the air behind her began to shimmer and distort. Gasps of awe rippled through the crowd as the HSS Defiant materialized out of thin air. The ship was a sleek, aerodynamic marvel, its obsidian hull seeming to drink in the light. It hovered silently, a testament to human determination and creativity. As the crowd's cheers reached a fever pitch, alarms suddenly blared. The sky darkened as a massive shadow fell over the city. The Zarkarian mothership, flanked by a fleet of smaller craft, had arrived. Admiral Xarlox's voice boomed from hidden speakers, filling the air with its imperious tone. "Humans of Earth, you have deceived us. You have developed technology beyond your means, in clear violation of our guidelines for your development. This rebellion ends now. Surrender your new technology and submit to full Zarkarian control, or face the consequences." A hush fell over the crowd, fear and uncertainty replacing the earlier jubilation. But then, a clear, strong voice cut through the silence. "No." All eyes turned to President Chen as she strode forward to stand beside Elena. Her voice, amplified for all to hear, was firm and unwavering. "We will not surrender. We will not submit. For too long, we have allowed you to dictate the terms of our existence on our own planet. That ends today." She gestured to the Defiant, still hovering silently behind them. "This ship, and the technology it represents, was not given to us. It was not stolen or copied. It is the product of human minds, human hands, and human hearts. It is proof that we are not the children you think us to be, but a species worthy of respect and equal standing." Tarlox's voice, when it came again, was cold with rage. "You fool, you have no idea of the power you're defying. This is your last chance. Surrender or be destroyed." Chen's response was immediate. "We choose neither. We choose to stand, to fight if we must, but above all, to be free. Humanity will no longer bow to bullies, be they from Earth or the stars." For a moment, the world seemed to hold its breath. Then, with a roar of energy weapons powering up, the Zarkarian fleet opened fire. But they were firing at where the Defiant had been. In the split second before the attack, the ship had vanished, its stealth systems engaging flawlessly. What followed was a battle unlike any in Earth's history. The Defiant, piloted by Major Sarah Hawkins, danced through the Zarkarian formation, appearing and disappearing at will. Its advanced weapons, reverse-engineered from the aliens' own technology, struck with pinpoint accuracy. Around the world, other stealth ships joined the fray. Smaller craft harried the Zarkarian fleet, exploiting the weaknesses discovered during the Shadowhawk's reconnaissance mission. The aliens, for the first time, found themselves outmaneuvered and outgunned. Their superior numbers meant little against an enemy they couldn't consistently target. As the battle raged in the skies above, Elena and her team worked feverishly in a mobile command center, coordinating the global defense effort. Every screen showed a different theater of the conflict, from orbital skirmishes to ground battles against Zarkarian forces. "We've got them on the run in the Pacific Theater," Akira reported, his fingers flying over a holographic keyboard. "Australian stealth fighters are keeping their southern fleet pinned down. European defense grid is holding." Jack chimed in, his usual humor replaced by intense focus. "Those shield generators we adapted from their tech are working better than we hoped." Elena allowed herself a moment of pride in her team, in humanity as a whole. Against all odds, they were holding their own. But she knew the fight was far from over. "Stay focused, everyone," she ordered. "We've surprised them, but they're adapting. We need to press our advantage while we still have it." As if to underscore her point, a new alert flashed on the main screen. The Zarkarian mothership was powering up its main weapon, a devastating energy cannon capable of leveling entire cities. "They're targeting New York," Fatila gasped, her hands flying over her console. "The Defiant can't get there in time to stop it." Elena's mind raced. They had anticipated this possibility, but the solution was risky, untested. She made her decision in a split second. "Initiate Protocol Omega," she commanded. Her team looked at her in shock. "But Dr. Reeves," Olga protested, "we haven't fully tested the citywide shield. If it fails, we don't have a choice," Alina cut her off. Do it. Now. As the Zarkarian weapon reached full charge, a shimmering dome of energy suddenly enveloped New York City. The alien blast struck the shield with earth-shaking force, but miraculously, it held. The mothership's weapon, designed to overwhelm conventional defenses, had expended most of its energy against the unexpected barrier. It left the massive ship vulnerable, its main power systems temporarily drained. Now, Alina shouted into her comm. All ships, converge on the mothership. This is our chance. The Defiant, along with a swarm of other stealth craft, materialized around the Zarkarian flagship. Their combined firepower overwhelmed the weakened defenses, punching through the hull in multiple places. On the mothership's bridge, alarms blared as systems failed across the board. Admiral Xarlox, his composure finally cracking, stared in disbelief at the destruction around him. Impossible, he muttered, echoing his words from days before. But this time, there was no anger in his voice, only shock, and perhaps a grudging respect. As escape pods jettisoned from the crippled Zarkarian ships, as cheers erupted from every corner of the globe, Alina Reeves allowed herself to smile. They had done it. Against all odds, humanity had stood up to its would-be overlords and emerged victorious. But as the adrenaline of battle faded, she knew that the real work was just beginning. The Zarkarians had been defeated, but not destroyed. And humanity, newly united and armed with advanced technology, stood on the brink of a new era. What that era would bring, only time would tell. A new era. The dawn broke over a changed world. As the first rays of sunlight pierced the smoke-filled sky, they illuminated a landscape forever altered by the events of the previous day. The Zarkarian mothership, once a looming symbol of alien dominance, now lay in ruins, its massive hull breached in a dozen places, escape pods scattered across the globe. In New York, the gleaming shield that had saved the city from destruction slowly faded, leaving behind a populace both awed and shell-shocked. Similar scenes played out in cities around the world, as humanity began to grapple with the magnitude of what had transpired. At the heart of it all, in a makeshift command center hastily erected in the shadow of the United Nations building, Dr. Alina Reeves stood surrounded by holographic displays. Each screen showed a different aspect of the global situation: casualty reports, damage assessments, the status of remaining Zarkarian forces, and more. Dr. Reeves, a voice called. Alina turned to see President Chen approaching, flanked by a group of world leaders. Despite the exhaustion evident on their faces, there was a newfound energy in their steps, a glimmer of hope in their eyes. Madam President, Alina greeted them, straightening her posture despite her own fatigue. Leaders of the world, what's the situation? President Chen's face was grim but determined. The Zarkarians are in full retreat. Their remaining ships are abandoning Earth orbit, but we got reports of scattered ground forces still putting up resistance in some areas. The British Prime Minister stepped forward. More pressingly, we've got thousands of Zarkarian escape pods landing all over the planet. We need to decide how to handle them. Alina nodded, her mind already racing with the implications. And let's not forget the bigger picture, she added. We've won this battle, but the Zarkarian Empire is vast. We need to prepare for potential retaliation. Agreed, Chen said. But first things first. Dr. Reeves, your team's achievements have been nothing short of miraculous. What do you recommend as our next steps? Alina took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment. We need to consolidate our gains, she began. First, we should use our stealth ships to track down and neutralize any remaining Zarkarian resistance. At the same time, we need to begin reverse engineering every piece of their technology we can get our hands on. She gestured to one of the screens, showing a global map dotted with Zarkarian landing sites. As for the escape pods, I suggest we treat the survivors humanely, but firmly. They could be a valuable source of information, and how we handle them will set the tone for future interactions with their species. The assembled leaders nodded in agreement. And what of our new technology? The Chinese president asked. Do we share it freely among nations, or? We share it, Chen said firmly, cutting off any debate. This victory wasn't the achievement of any one nation. It was a global effort, and the benefits should be global too. As the discussion continued, Alina found her attention drawn to one of the smaller screens. It showed a live feed from the HSS Defiant, where Major Sarah Hawkins was overseeing the capture of a high-ranking Zarkarian officer. Patch me through, Alina requested. The screen expanded, and Sarah's voice filled the room. Dr. Reeves, you're gonna want to hear this, Sarah said, her voice tight with suppressed excitement. Our prisoner here claims he's Admiral Sarlacc himself. A ripple of surprise went through the assembled leaders. Sarlacc, the face of Zarkarian oppression, in human custody. It seemed almost too good to be true. Bring him in, Chen ordered. Carefully. We need to handle this delicately. Hours later, in a secure facility beneath the UN building, Alina found herself face to face with the Zarkarian leader. Sarlacc, stripped of his ornate armor, seemed smaller somehow, less imposing, but his eyes still burned with an inner fire as they fixed on Alina. So, he said, his voice a low growl, you are the one responsible for this. Upset. Alina met his gaze steadily. I'm one of many, Admiral. Humanity achieved this victory together. Sarlacc's facial scales rippled in what Alina had learned was a sign of agitation. You have no idea what you've done, he hissed. The Empire will not stand for this humiliation. They will come for you, with a force that will make our fleet look like a scouting party. Perhaps, Alina replied calmly, but they'll find a humanity united and ready to defend itself. We're quick learners, Admiral, and we've learned a lot from you. For a moment, something like respect flickered in Sarlacc's alien eyes. Then it was gone, replaced by cold calculation. What do you want from me? Information, Alina said simply, about your empire, your technology, your intentions. In exchange, we're prepared to offer you and your people humane treatment and potentially a route to peaceful coexistence. Sarlacc laughed, a harsh, grating sound. Peaceful coexistence. You are naive, human. The Empire does not coexist. It conquers. Then perhaps it's time for that to change. A new voice interjected. President Chen stepped into the room, her presence commanding respect even from the alien prisoner. Admiral Sarlacc, your empire has just received a demonstration of what happens when you underestimate humanity. We'd prefer peace, but make no mistake. We'll fight if we must, and we'll win. As the interrogation continued, Alina's mind was already racing ahead to the challenges that lay before them. The immediate threat had been neutralized, but the work was far from over. In the months that followed, humanity underwent a transformation unlike anything in its history. The stealth technology that had won them the war was adapted for peaceful purposes, revolutionizing transportation and communication. The energy systems reverse-engineered from Zarkarian tech solved the world's power problems almost overnight. But more than the technological advancements, it was the shift in global attitudes that truly marked the dawn of a new era. Nations that had been at odds for generations now worked together, united by their shared experience and the knowledge that they were no longer alone in the universe. The Zarkarian prisoners, including Sarlacc, eventually became valuable allies. Many, freed from the rigid hierarchy of their empire, embraced the opportunity to experience a different way of life. Their knowledge helped humanity prepare its defenses and expand its understanding of the galaxy. 1 year after the battle that had changed everything, Alina stood on a platform, much like the one where she had unveiled the Defiant. But this time, she wasn't in New York. She was at the newly constructed global spaceport in Kenya, watching as the first human-built interstellar ship prepared for launch. The ship, fittingly named Unity, was a marvel of human and Zarkarian engineering. It incorporated the best of both worlds. Human creativity and adaptability combined with advanced alien technology. As Alina prepared to address the global audience, she felt a tap on her shoulder. Turning, She saw Sarah Hawkins, now Captain Hawkins, grinning at her. "Ready for another adventure, Doc?" Sarah asked, gesturing to the ship. Alina smiled back. "Always, though I think I'll leave the piloting to you this time." As they took their places for the ceremony, Alina couldn't help but reflect on the journey that had brought them to this point. From the depths of despair under Zarkarian occupation to the cusp of becoming an interstellar species, it was a transformation she could scarcely have imagined a year ago. The ceremony began, and Alina stepped up to the microphone. Looking out at the sea of faces, human and Zarkarian alike, she felt a surge of pride and hope. "People of Earth," she began, her voice carrying to every corner of the globe, "today we take our first steps into a larger universe. The Unity represents more than just technological achievement. It stands as a testament to what we can accomplish when we work together, when we refuse to be limited by our differences or cowed by those who would dominate us." She paused, letting her words sink in. "A year ago, we faced extinction. Today, we reach for the stars. Our journey hasn't been easy, and the road ahead will have its own challenges. But we face them not as separate nations, not as competing species, but as a united people of Earth." As cheers erupted from the crowd, Alina gave the signal. With a low hum that belied its immense power, the Unity rose from its launch pad. It hovered for a moment, majestic and full of promise, before shooting up into the sky, quickly becoming a bright star against the blue. Alina watched it go, her heart full. They had done it. Against all odds, humanity had not only survived but thrived. They had taken the Zarkarians' attempt to subjugate them and turned it into an opportunity for growth and unity. As the Unity disappeared from view, beginning its journey to the nearby star system that would be humanity's first step into the cosmos, Alina turned to Sarah. "So, Captain," she said with a smile, "where do you think we'll go next?" Sarah's eyes sparkled with excitement. "Everywhere, Doc. We'll go everywhere." And as they stood there, watching the sky where their future waited, both women knew that this was just the beginning. Humanity's greatest adventure was just starting, and the universe would never be the same. In the years that followed, Earth became a beacon of hope and progress in the galaxy. The lessons learned from the Zarkarian conflict, the importance of unity, the power of innovation, and the strength found in diversity, became the cornerstone of a new galactic philosophy. Human ships, each one a testament to the combined ingenuity of Earth's people, ventured further and further into space. They encountered new species, some friendly, some hostile, but always approached with a blend of caution and openness that became humanity's trademark. The Zarkarian Empire, faced with the unexpected rise of Earth and reports of their defeat spreading across the galaxy, found itself at a crossroads. Internal debates raged between those who wanted to crush the human upstarts and those who saw the potential for a new way of doing things. In the end, it was Klarlox, the former admiral turned cultural attaché, who brokered a historic peace treaty between Earth and the Empire. His experiences on Earth had changed him, showing him a different path than the one of conquest he had always known. As for Alina Reeves, she continued to push the boundaries of science, leading Earth's efforts to understand and adapt alien technologies. But more than that, she became a symbol of what humanity could achieve when it refused to give up hope. The story of Earth's resistance, of a small fractured planet standing up to a vast interstellar empire, spread across the galaxy. It inspired other subjugated species to resist, to innovate, to unite. Slowly but surely, the balance of power in the galaxy began to shift. And so, humanity stepped onto the galactic stage, not as conquerors, not as victims, but as innovators, mediators, and explorers. The species that had once been dismissed as primitive now stood at the forefront of a new age of galactic cooperation and discovery. The future, once so dark and threatening, now shone bright with possibility. And it all began with a group of humans who dared to dream, who refused to submit, and who showed the galaxy that sometimes the most powerful force in the universe is the indomitable spirit of a species united in the face of adversity. As the Unity and its sister ships journeyed ever outward, they carried with them not just the hopes and dreams of humanity, but a message to the cosmos. We are here, we are strong, and we come in peace, but we will always stand our ground. The age of human timidity was over. The age of human exploration had begun.